Beneath the frozen skin of the Arctic, where the sun barely rises and the wind whispers secrets across endless snow, there lies a world unseen by human eyes. It is cold, it is ancient, and it is alive. The Inuit people speak of a force that dwells in the deep, a being as vast and unforgiving as the sea itself. She is not merely a myth, she is the heartbeat of the ocean, the mother of all marine life, the gatekeeper between survival and starvation. Her name is Sedna. Before she ruled the sea, she was a daughter. Before she shaped life, she was betrayed. Her story is not one of peace, but of fury, sorrow, and transformation. This is no bedtime tale. This is the legend of Sedna, the sea goddess who weeps salt into the tides and controls the fate of all who dare to fish her waters.
Long ago, on the edge of the world where land meets the endless ice, there was a village carved into the white silence of the Arctic. The winds there didn't just howl, they spoke, and those who listened could hear the old stories carried on the air. In this village lived a young woman named Sedna. She was no ordinary girl. Her beauty was striking. Her long black hair like raven feathers, her eyes sharp as obsidian, but it was her spirit that set her apart. Fierce, proud, and untamed, Sedna refused to be claimed. Hunters came boasting of their kills, warriors told tales of their strength, some whispered of their wealth, others brought gifts carved from bone and ivory, but Sedna turned them all away. She was not looking for a husband, she was waiting for something she could not yet name. Her father grew restless. In a land where survival meant union, Sedna's defiance was dangerous, but she would not yield. And then he came. One evening, as twilight wrapped the sky in shades of violet and indigo, a stranger appeared on the shoreline. He was tall, cloaked in soft black feathers that shimmered in the dying light. His voice was smooth, melodic, like wind over still water. He claimed to be a wealthy hunter from a distant island where fish were plentiful, where the sun warmed the rocks, and where she would be adored and never go hungry. To Sedna, who had known only ice and obligation, his words were a song. He painted visions of a paradise untouched by cold, where she could be free, no longer her father's daughter, no longer the village's prize. Her father's instincts twisted with unease. He begged her not to go. The stranger's presence unsettled the elders, who saw shadows behind his smile. But Sedna, drawn by the pull of something new, boarded his kayak and disappeared across the frozen sea. Days passed. The village waited. The winds whispered. And when Sedna finally reached the distant island, her heart turned to stone. The paradise he promised was a lie. His island was bare and bitter, a jagged outcrop of black rock battered by wind and waves. The only shelter was a crude nest woven from bones and feathers. And the man, her husband, was no man at all. As he shed his cloak, Sedna saw the truth. Hooked beak, piercing eyes, and wings of darkness. He was a bird spirit, a trickster of the skies who had lured her with lies. There would be no warmth, no food, no love, only captivity. Alone, betrayed, and surrounded by the cries of seabirds, Sedna realized she had been stolen, not just from her home but from her future. And the wind, ever watchful, carried her sorrow back across the sea. Alone on the barren rock beneath the relentless screech of seabirds, Sedna wept. Her cries, raw and ragged, rose into the cold Arctic sky and drifted across the churning sea like smoke. She called not just with her voice but with her soul. And far away across the ice and snow, her father heard. His heart, once hardened by disappointment, cracked with guilt. He remembered her cries as a child, her stubborn courage, her proud defiance. He had let her go too easily. Now, he could no longer bear the silence of her absence. Without hesitation, he launched his kayak into the vast frozen sea, slicing through frigid waters under a leaden sky. For days he paddled, guided by nothing but instinct and regret. And then, he found her. Sedna, hollow-eyed and starving, stood on the cliff's edge, wind whipping her tangled hair like seaweed. She did not run to him. She had grown cold and still, like the sea itself. But when he reached out his hand, she took it. Together they pushed off into the waves, father and daughter, fleeing the island of lies. But the bird spirit was watching. With a shriek that tore through the sky like thunder, he ascended from the rocks, black wings stretching wide as storm clouds gathered overhead. He summoned the winds, he screamed to the sea, and the sea answered. The waves rose with a fury unlike anything Sedna had ever seen. Walls of water crashed around the tiny kayak, and lightning ripped across the sky like veins of fire. The wind roared like 1,000 beasts, and sleet stung like glass. The kayak spun, the paddle snapped, the sky went dark. Sedna clung to the vessel, her fingers going numb, her hair soaked and clinging to her face. Her father fought to keep them afloat. But the bird spirit storm would not relent. Then, in a moment of desperation, madness or cowardice, he chose himself. He turned to his daughter with wide, terrified eyes, and he pushed her overboard. The freezing water swallowed her whole. But Sedna did not let go. She surfaced, gasping, her frozen hands gripping the edge of the kayak. She screamed, not just in fear but in disbelief. Her eyes pleaded, "Father, please." But the sea raged on, and her father, trembling and desperate to appease the storm, did the unthinkable. He reached for his knife. With one hand clinging to the boat and the other flailing, Sedna tried to pull herself up, but he raised the blade and brought it down. First one finger, then another, and another. Each cut was a betrayal, each scream a thunderclap. One by one, Sedna's fingers fell into the sea, sinking, twisting, carried away by the current. And as they disappeared into the dark, the sea began to change. Beneath the black and roiling sea, Sedna's severed fingers sank like falling stars, silent, drifting into the deep. But the ocean is not just water. It is memory. It is spirit. It is alive. And as each finger vanished into the abyss, something wondrous began to happen. From the flesh of her fingertips, seals emerged, graceful and swift, their bodies sleek and shimmering, their dark eyes reflecting the sorrow of their mother. From her knuckles and joints, walruses were born, massive and wise, bearing tusks like the blades that severed her. And from her longest fingers, where blood and bone were stripped away last, came the whales, great, majestic giants who sang to the sea and carried Sedna's lament across the ocean floor. Where there was once only silence and storm, now there was movement, life, swimming and breathing beneath the ice. The sea drank her pain, and from that pain it gave birth to an entire world. Above the waves, the storm raged, but below, Sedna was falling, deeper, farther, into the cold cradle of the underworld. Her body no longer fought the descent. Her limbs moved with the tide. Her eyes, wide with grief, now stared into the endless dark with something new, clarity. And when she reached the bottom of the world, she did not die. She awoke. There, in the silent blackness of the ocean's floor, Sedna's body transformed. Her once frozen hair now flowed like endless kelp, twisting and reaching into the currents. Her skin shimmered like fish scales, pale and iridescent. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now burned with the eternal light of grief and rage. She was no longer the betrayed daughter. She was no longer the helpless bride. She had become a force of nature. Sedna, the sea goddess, was born, not in a temple, but in trauma. Not from worship, but from wounds. She became the mother of all marine life, the sovereign of the cold, wild sea. In her realm of silence and pressure, she ruled with the fury of betrayal and the sorrow of endless memory. She knew every creature by name, because they were made from her. She knew every current because it moved with her breath. And she knew every hunter who dared dip their spear into her waters, because now their lives belonged to her. Sedna is not a passive goddess. She does not smile gently from the heavens or whisper blessings from afar. She dwells in the deep, where the water is black, the pressure crushing, and the silence eternal. And there, at the bottom of the world, she rules. Sedna is powerful, unpredictable, and bound to no law but her own. She is the mother of every seal, every whale, every fish that swims in the icy waters of the Arctic. She feeds the people, or she withholds them. Her moods shape the very rhythm of life along the frozen coasts. When she is pleased, the ocean opens its arms. Seals surface in abundance, whales breach the waves, and the hunters return with full sleds and singing hearts. But when Sedna is angered, the sea turns empty and silent. The animals vanish, the nets come up bare, villages grow hungry, children cry, and people remember who holds the balance between life and death. It is not the hunter's skill that fills the cooking pot, it is Sedna's mercy, and mercy must be earned. The Inuit understood this. They did not take the sea for granted. They offered songs before the hunt. They whispered prayers over harpoons. They taught their children that every seal taken was a gift from Sedna's body, and that every drop of oil, every piece of meat, every bone was sacred. But even reverence was not always enough. For Sedna's pain lingers. Her hair, long, thick, black as the abyss, is tangled by currents and knotted with sorrow. When her hair becomes twisted and wild, it is a sign the balance has been broken. Her soul is restless. Her grief has returned. And that is when the shamans are called. With drum beats echoing through igloos and firelight dancing on fur-lined walls, the Angakuk, Inuit shamans, prepare to enter Sedna's realm. Through trance, chant, and deep spiritual journeying, they send their spirits down into the cold, dark sea. It is not an easy descent. The spirits must travel through icy tunnels and shifting waters, through the bones of whales and the shadows of the drowned. And at the bottom, they find her Sedna, watching, waiting. Her eyes are storms. Her body coils like seaweed. Her hair floats in all directions, tangled with bones, kelp, and the broken memories of betrayal. If the shaman is brave and gentle, they may approach. With spiritual fingers, they begin to comb her hair, slowly, carefully, tenderly. Every knot they undo is a sorrow soothed, every stroke a moment of comfort. And as her hair becomes smooth, Sedna's rage ebbs, the currents calm, the animals return to the surface, the balance is restored. But not all shamans are strong enough. Some never return. For Sedna does not forget, and she does not forgive easily. She reminds the people that survival is never owed, it is borrowed. And those who take too much from the sea, who dishonor the creatures, who forget the old rituals, will one day find that the sea takes back everything. Because Sedna is not just a goddess of life. She is the guardian of death. And she is watching. Sedna never forgets. She remembers the moment her father's hands gripped the knife. She remembers the icy sting of the sea as it swallowed her screams. She remembers the exact sound her bones made as they snapped, and the warmth of her own blood as it bled into the abyss. And though the world above may change, villages modernized, rituals abandoned, ice melting, Sedna remembers it all. She remembers every offering made with respect, every song sung by a trembling shaman, every carved bone placed on an altar with reverence. She remembers the hunters who whispered her name before casting their harpoons, who honored the animals they killed, who returned bones to the sea with gratitude. But she also remembers every transgression. She remembers when animals were slaughtered needlessly. She remembers when bones were burned, not buried. She remembers when her name was spoken in arrogance, or not at all. Sedna is not a goddess of forgiveness. She is not soft or forgetful like the drifting snow. She is the sea under the ice, cold, watching, eternal. She judges with the weight of generations. Her justice is slow, sometimes silent, but never absent, and when balance is broken, she does not need to roar. She simply withdraws. The animals vanish, the water hardens, the silence returns. She does not seek vengeance, she seeks balance. Because Sedna is not just a goddess of life, she is the living memory of the Arctic itself. And like the Arctic, she is beautiful, vast, glittering, full of wonder, but also merciless to those who do not listen. Through her myth, the Inuit teach something deeper than fear. They teach respect, not just for Sedna, but for the world she represents. The sea, the ice, the creatures that live and die, the spirits that dwell beneath the surface, the ancestors whose voices echo in the wind. To honor Sedna is to understand that the world is alive. It watches, it listens, it remembers. And if we take too much, break too many promises, or forget the stories that were passed down in whispers and firelight, then Sedna, the goddess who remembers, will remind us in the only way she knows how, through hunger. through silence, through the sea that does not give back. The world is changing. The ice cracks sooner. The winters grow shorter. The spirits that once danced across the snow are harder to hear beneath the noise of machines. Ancient songs fall silent. Traditions slip into memory. But Sedna endures. She lives not just in myth, but in the bones of the sea, in every ripple that touches the Arctic shore, in every breath drawn by a whale beneath the ice. Her presence lingers in the rhythm of the tides, in the dreams of shamans, and in the quiet fear that settles over a village when the seals don't return. She is not gone. She is watching. Every prayer whispered over an empty net, every hunter who kneels before the sea, every story told in darkness to keep a child warm with wonder and warning, these are echoes of Sedna. She is more than legend. She is the pulse beneath the ocean, the pain that birthed life. The goddess who was made not by worship but by betrayal, blood, and rebirth. She is not a ghost from the past. She is the living Arctic, a force as eternal and unforgiving as the cold itself. So if the fish vanish, if the ice groans, if the wind carries no song and the sea offers no gift, remember, somewhere in the deep where no light reaches, where her hair floats like kelp in the currents, where her eyes still burn with ancient sorrow, Sedna stirs, and the sea will not forget.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.